If you're watching this video, I guess you have the same problem that I had. The foam around your ski goggles has perished and started crumbling and fallen out. So I've got several pairs of ski goggles, and the foam that sits in the top vent area and around the bottoms has perished and just crumbled away. So of course the problem with that is if you go skiing and it's snowing, then you end up with snow going inside. Now the solution to this is not straightforward, because you can't just buy 1 or 2 millimeter thin open cell foam, or at least I couldn't find any, to replace it with. So I've come up with a very simple solution, which if you've got these bits lying around, you could probably make your own replacement foam. So there's several steps to the process. So the first one was for me to make some cardboard templates. So this is a template for the foam for the top, and then this is a template for the two side bits that go underneath. So with those, I knew roughly the size of foam I needed, and then it was just a case of finding some open cell foam. You don't want closed cell because you want it to be breathable. So I found some dark grey or sort of charcoal open cell foam. To check that it's open cell, you can just put it up to your mouth and try and breathe through it, and if you can breathe through it, then it's open cell, and that's perfect, because otherwise your goggles are going to mist up. Now, how do you cut it so thin? Because I mean, this is just a random block I had. I think something was packaged in this, and I had it left over. And what you want to end up with is some nice 1 or 2 millimeter thick strips of the foam, and then you can take your template and cut out the pieces you need. So how did I cut this thin? Right, so luckily my son is a guitar player, and he had some old strings, so I used one of the high E strings, very thin like this, and all I've done is I've clamped it to the edge of my bench, and I've used a piece of aluminium. I'd say that's probably about 2, maybe even 3 millimeters thick, a little bit thicker than I wanted, and there's a piece of aluminium here on top of a plastic spacer to give it about the same height off the desk. Now you've got to bear in mind this is going to get hot and melt the foam, so you need to make the height of this slightly thicker than you want, because it's going to burn a hole through the foam. Okay, so you'll end up with a slightly thinner piece than you planned. And all I did is I connected it to a bench power supply, and for this sort of length here, which I guess is about 100 millimeters, I needed about, well, let's have a look, switch it on. It's about what, 4.5, 5 volts, 5 volts at 2 amps, 6 volts. As it warms up, the resistance obviously changes. So there you go, it's about 7.5 volts at 2 amps. So if you have a suitable power supply lying around that would give you that sort of current, about 2 amps, then you can probably make up something like this. So all I've done is I've clipped the positive lead onto one end, and then I've got this blue lead running around the back. That comes and just clips onto the aluminium, so it conducts here. Now, one thing you'll notice the first time you use it, even if you stretch the string tightly, when you turn on the power supply and the wire heats up, it will start kinking and snake, and it will probably dip as well. So what you want to do is, with it turned on, you need to slacken one of the clamps and then just pull the wire nice and tight, and then with it still on, tighten up the clamp again, and then it'll be nice and taut, so like it is now. So when I turn it on now, it stays nice and straight. Now the other thing to note is when you're cutting the foam, so all I did is I sort of positioned it like this and just sort of slid it towards the blade, or the wire rather, and it cuts at a reasonable speed. It goes at about this sort of speed. But what you want to do is you want to make absolutely sure you keep a small amount of pressure downwards on it. If you just grab it up near the top and slide it like this, then what you'll find is you'll get undulations in the bottom. So you want to keep a bit of pressure, just not too much. You probably have to have a practice run, but just a small amount of pressure, just like that, as you slide it, and just keep sliding it straight all the way through and let it burn right off the back. And the piece you've cut will actually stay stuck on the bottom like this, and then you just take the edge and it will just peel off like that. It's quite easy. Once I've done all that, my plan is to use the templates to cut the pieces I want. You can join them together. So for example, I don't think I've got enough to do a whole one of these, so I'll do it as a half, do the other one reposition as a half, because there's actually a join on the top of the goggles here, so I can have a glue join there. And then I'm just going to use some contact adhesive or something just around the edge and just stick them down, and that will probably do it, and that'll give me another few seasons at least without having to buy a new pair of goggles. So hopefully that'll help you, and you can repair your goggles too.